Welcome back, Raider Nation, Sports Nation, and my champions. It is Eric from CSN, and we are doing a live stream tonight, finishing up our 31 and 31 series here, if you can see that right here with the training camp. And we have a lot of topics to cover tonight. I'm glad you guys are here. I see a few people already in the chat, but we're going to get to the topics and run down, and then we'll answer your questions in the Q&A session. So let's get right to it. So if you're not familiar with the way we do live streams here, is we have what I call a rundown here. So these are the topics we're going to be discussing here during the first part of the live stream. Various subjects tonight. Basically, we're going to have some Raider talk as well as the Rumor Mill Sunday tonight instead of tomorrow. We're going to have some fantasy talk, go over some of the Olympic issues that I've been seeing, and have a little bit of finale. And of course, we always have a Q&A session with you guys. So put your questions in the chat now. And if you have questions while I do the rundown, I will address those in the Q&A session as well. So let's get right to it. So the first thing I want to talk about is what's going on with Raiders camp. Now, I did do a video 2 nights ago regarding the initial training camp last weekend for the rookies and quarterbacks and what they call selected veterans. And I went over some things. There is some more details over the last couple of days that I wanted to cover as well. First thing is I want to talk about our defensive coordinator here. I call him Mr. Smiley here. This is Gus Bradley. And he had an interview and came up with a few very interesting subjects I want to cover here. First thing he said was he was very impressed with how the players physically were. They were ready. Looks like they're already ready to be playing in the preseason already, excuse me. So that's very encouraging. They're already in shape. Gruden already actually said that every man met their weight goals coming into training camp. So that's very encouraging as well. And he also mentioned that this is going to help our what he calls our fourth quarter push. Now, he touches upon this subject as well as in the next topic here, and I call it coming in waves because this is how he is designing our defensive line as far as putting on pressure. And he wants to have at least 2 lines to come in and be able to sub in and out, especially in the fourth quarter, to keep the pressure on the quarterback. And it makes a lot of sense to me. And of course, the leader of the pressure would be Yannick Ngakoue. And he mentioned that, you know, he's very good. He came in a little heavier, more muscular. He's also a good student of the game, but he also mentioned that he's seeing something he didn't see before, and he's helping the other younger players now. So this echoes what John Gruden was saying about him and his leadership side, which is very encouraging. Now, he did give a shout out, so to speak, to Tanner Muse. What he said was they're plugging him in outside linebacker. Hey, Earth Daughter, glad you could join us. Same thing with Dominique and Sandy B and anybody else who's listening and not responding in chat. So thank you for coming. As far as Tanner Muse goes, they're going to be plugging him in at outside linebacker, and Gus commended him on his speed at that position, so that's good news too. I think personally, you know, he was out with the injury. He's kind of a fringe player to make the final 53, so maybe he will make it as an outside linebacker. We'll have to see. And then the last thing, I just kind of covered it as far as defensive back developments. Talked about the outside corners, and the quote he had was consistency breeds credibility. Now, he's big on consistency. I talked about that in a previous live stream with him, talking about he's not so much on the big plays, but how often you're making those plays play by play, down by down. And he's echoing the same thing he's saying before. He was saying Trayvon Mullen has really gone on board with that. He feels that Damon Arnett has improved, of course, as well as Casey Hayward. So nothing really there to show who's going to have those 2 outside spots. I'm still thinking now that Hayward's going to have one and Mullen's going to have the other, but who knows with Damon Arnett? We'll see as the preseason plays out. Next subject he talked about was slot corner, or the nickel corner, and he was really high on Nate Hobbs. So much so it almost seems like he's already leaning that way. Now he did like Nevin Lawson. Also, he talked about Amik Robertson, but the big focus was on Nate Hobbs in this interview. So he might have already secured the nickel spot already, the way he was talking him up. And then the free safety, he basically said that it was still open, and it kind of reminds me of the unsolved comment by Gruden that really kind of disturbed me. But he kind of prefaced it by saying, well, they haven't had, they're starting to get almost to full speed. They haven't put the pads on yet, so he wants to kind of pump the brakes there. But this is something I would say more than anything else right now, maybe other than the interior offensive line, that I would be concerned about, because now we're having two coaches talk about this in kind of ambiguous fashion. So next thing I want to go over is what I call Rumor Mill Sunday. Next thing I want to go over is some updates. There are some updates on the status that I gave out in the video 2 days ago as far as injury status. Now, Divine Diablo, Isaiah Johnson, and Devery Hamilton have not had any updates on their status. No word on these two. Diablo is still on track, supposedly, for 2 weeks to come back to practice. Darius Stills is back in practice, as is Kenyon Drake. Jalen Richard, according to John Gruden, will be back Monday the 2nd, and Theo Riddick has decided to retire, and he's on the retired reserve list. So now let's get to the Rumor Mill Sunday. Now, I normally do a video every Sunday talking about various rumors about the Raiders going around the league and other YouTubers, and kind of sniff those out, whether I believe those or not. Now, I have one big whopper one here, and that is this article by Paul Gutierrez in ESPN.com talking about training camp questions. And the first one he says, is this a make or break year for Derek Carr? No more excuses right here as he enters year 4, blah, blah, blah. And then he kind of backs off of that a little bit. But then he says Carr, in search of another extension, might be entering a make or break season. And of course, I got to call bullshit on that, right? And then after that, he says, well, he's coming off career highs in passing, passer rating here in QBR. And I'm like, well, then how would he be on the hot seat for a make or break season? I mean, the offense was top 10 last year. The defense was 25th. And he talks about that later in the article. And they were 8-8, almost into the playoffs. So I don't see, unless he thinks Derek Carr the wheels are going to fall off, and he's going to have a terrible season, I don't see him on the hot seat. And then he mentioned the offensive line, Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson, and Trent Brown being gone. Honestly, Hudson and Jackson have been regressing the last couple of years. And Trent Brown, I think he was too busy eating fucking cheeseburgers to even play half a season. So no big loss there. I think at worst we're going to be about the same on the offensive line. And I know it's a young group. I think we're pretty secure on the outside. It's going to be the guards. Like I said before, I'm not sure Incognito can last a full season. That concerns me. Denzel Good's going to be the other guard. We'll see. Andre James at center. Everybody's touting him. We still do have Nick Martin as a backup in case that doesn't happen. But I'm not so worried about this. I think, especially with the Derek Carr rumor. Next thing I want to talk about, he asked about, is defensive coordinator Gus Bradley, quote, the miracle worker to solve basically the Raiders' shitty defense. And then he put, well, he had better be, blah, blah, blah. And then he says, it's been a long time since they've had a dominant defense since Howie Long, Lyle Alzado. I mean, this was like 1983. Now, granted, I look back in the archives, and in the 2002 season when we went to the Super Bowl, the Raiders were 8th in total sacks. So not quite accurate here, but yeah, that's still like 20 years ago. So I can't really complain about that. But I'm not so sure about this one. Gus Bradley, I think, is a better coach. I saw a lot of confusion. I've said this before under Paul Guenther last year, even with the veterans, and it didn't make any sense. It seems like everybody's on the same page. And I talked about this in my training camp video about how Derek Carr observed that when Bradley goes out there and speaks to the defensive unit, they all stop and listen. They have his attention. Plus, not to mention the fact that we got Yannick Ngakoue to pair up with Max Crosby, who is basically our only pass rusher, and he got 7 sacks on a busted shoulder. So I'm optimistic here. We finished 25th last year. I'm going to say we're going to finish around 20. And I think the second year will be even will he even take a bigger leap? Plus, we had my boy Malcolm Kuntz draft too as part of that second wave of pass rushers. Next thing I want to talk about is what he asked here is, did the Raiders really have the worst offseason of any team in the NFL? Now, I had mentioned this before this article. I think it was in a previous live stream about Bill Barnwell saying we were 32nd as far as offseason acquisitions, gains and losses. Yes, I think that's total bullshit. He kind of backs off of that a little bit, so he didn't really nail us for that, but I have just you wait on this because I feel, especially with Ngakoue there, you have a seasoned veteran, a guy whose floor has been 8 sacks every year he's been in the league. Even when he's was shipped around a few teams, he's back with Gus Bradley in the system, the same guy who drafted him in Jacksonville. And then they got Kenyon Drake, a guy who had like 1,000 yards and 10 total touchdowns last season in Arizona to help spell and take some of the load off of Josh Jacobs. Willie Snead, a slot guy, John Brown to replace Aguilar, proven speedster. There's no way we're the worst in the offseason. That's just insane. And it says, well, shouldn't it be for the, we don't judge a draft class until 2 or 3 seasons. Shouldn't it be the same for the offseason? I'm like, no. These are proven commodities, okay? You want to wait in a draft class because these guys are taking a step up and playing with men instead of, teenagers, college kids. That's a big difference. We already know what these guys can do, and there's no way we had the worst off season. Now, the last thing he mentioned was talking about John Gruden, about his job security. He has that 10-year contract. He says, might his seat get a little warm if the Raiders collapse again at the end of the season? And then he says, a short answer to that long question is yes. And my answer is hell no. It is absolutely no. He is in the 4th season of a 10-year guaranteed $100 million deal, $10 million a year. I don't see him going away unless he resigns, like getting fired until at least after year 6. Is Mark Davis, Tommy Boy, actually going to eat all that money? I don't think so, and then have to pay for a new coach. That wouldn't make any sense. Plus, Gruden, for all of his ills and people ragging on him, he still was 8-8. I'm not saying he's a great coach, but I'm also saying he's not a terrible coach. And it was obvious the defense was the issue. If you want to go look at my grading Gruden series, especially on the review. I did one for every season he's been here, and then an overall review. And I have my detailed about how I feel about John Gruden in there. Next thing I want to talk about is a little bit of fantasy news, because I was doing fantasy videos as well in the 31 and 31 series, and I have a couple items here. The first one, I did a QB1 target fantasy video. So basically guys outside the top 5, there's a couple that I thought could even make the top 5. And even with Dak Prescott here being the top quarterback, unfortunately he has an injury right now. If you don't know, he has an injury to his lat. That is the muscle kind of connecting the shoulder blade to the upper/middle back. And it's on his throwing side. Supposedly he's only going to be out a couple weeks. I'm going to try to be optimistic here, but when he's been out on the field last year and 2019, he's been like a pinball machine as far as fantasy points. So this might keep a good track of this, you fantasy guys, and this might even drop him in your drafts, your redraft leagues, and you could even get him at a bigger bargain. The other one I want to talk about is I kind of made a parody fun clown show of the NFL Network's breakout stars, quote unquote, because a lot of these guys that they mentioned are not breakouts at all, or I think that they're absolutely crazy for thinking that they're going to break out. Now, one of them was Stacey Dales or Dowles or whatever, it doesn't even matter. But the one I want to mention is Carson Wentz here, and she said that he was a breakout and is going to have a resurgence because he's back with Frank Reich. And that was the whole cure for all his ills. Well, he has an undisclosed foot injury now, and we don't even know when he's going to be back. So it looks like they're going to be going on without him. Number 2 and number 3 have been getting the reps. And frankly, he was sucking before that. He was an absolute joke. He has not been very good. I think they solved him, kind of like what I talked about in my Ravens video about solving Lamar Jackson. And I didn't buy any of this hype whatsoever. Next thing I want to talk about is some of what I call Olympic wobbles. Now, I did do a video on the Team USA preview at the start of the Olympics, and a lot of notable Team USA either athletes or teams have been having some struggles in this year's Olympics, or this Olympics in Tokyo. And the first one obviously is the Team USA men's basketball. They went and they basically choked the game against France, their first game, but they did bounce back, destroyed Iran by 54 points, and then took out the Czech Republic by 35. So they are in the quarterfinals. This will be interesting to see how they go. Maybe they kind of woke them up. A lot of people are saying this is no big deal. They're still going to win the gold. And I got to kind of lean on that side. I think maybe they just needed that game to kind of shake them up and wake them up. Next one is the Team USA women's gymnastic team. Obviously, I think unless you've been under a rock, you've heard about what happened with Simone Biles, and that basically kind of cost them the gold medal. They were the heavy favorites. They ended up with silver. Russia ended up getting the gold, but Suni Lee here got the women's all-around gold, so they kind of bounced back. Plus, they have the event finals coming up, so they do one for each event. And I think we're going to get some golds there as well. So I think that's a nice bounce back from the ladies there. And the third one I want to talk about, and I think this one's kind of the most concerning, and this is the women's U.S. women's soccer team here. They actually got destroyed by Sweden 3-0 on the first game. And then they came back. They had a, quote, bounce back game against New Zealand, won 6-1. And then they struggled against Australia, ended up drawing a 0-0 or 0-0 draw, so to speak. Now they played the Netherlands, had to go to penalty kicks, just got by them. So they are in the semifinals. They have to play Canada on Monday, but Sweden is still on the other side of the bracket. So I'm a little concerned. I have not seen them bounce back like the men's basketball team has per se. So they might get a medal, but it might not be gold. Again, like I said, I've done this Olympic preview video if you want to take a look at that. I'm also going to do a review, and I'm going to go through all the athletes I talked about in the video and let you know how they did. Now, finally, of course, this is our 31 and 31 finale. I mentioned that, so this is the last day of the series on the 31st. And we did one video a day. Every day we covered a variety of topics, and I just kind of put some of them out here. And of course, we always like to have a little bit of a celebration here. So I'm going to have a celebration right now, and I will let you know right here. So I have a little bit of a celebration here. Some Corazon Añejo, little orange liqueur, some triple sec, like a little homemade margarita. So thank you. You can partake as well if you're over 21. If not, you can have a soda as well. Thank you guys for coming and supporting this, as well as coming here tonight with a live stream. Salud. So now we're at the point where we're going to have our Q&A session right now. I'll turn this light off here. So I'm going to be scrolling up and seeing any questions that you had and kind of going down from there. So let's take a look here. Let's see. Let's see. J Oak says, for real, we're getting knocked for replacing Trent Brown with the first round pick. Makes no sense. What a luxury to be able to pay an injured top. Yeah. Overpaid lop with a high potential young player. Yeah. John Gruden mentioned also that, I believe that, Alex Leatherwood, one of the things he said as far as measurables, he's 8 inches longer, his wingspan, than he is tall. And that's big, especially for, like an offensive tackle. And Trent Brown, I mean, come on. The minute he got that contract from us, he literally just started eating. And I think he only played like a half a season's worth for the last 2 seasons. So it's really no loss. This is what I don't like when these beat reporters like the ESPNs or what have you write articles about the Raiders, and they just kind of just little scratch of the surface, and they have no idea what they're talking about. They don't know that Rodney Hudson has been declining, or Gabe Jackson. He had some injuries before. They don't know that. They're just writing, big name, Rodney Hudson, Gabe Jackson, Trent Brown. Oh, God, they're dead. They're dead. They have no idea what they're talking about. Santi James says 0% chance we had the worst offseason. These people. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. They have no idea. I mean, if they've known the last 2 seasons, Josh Jacobs, he's a good player. I'm not sure, and I've said this before, I'm not sure if he can carry a full load. There's no way he could carry like a Derrick Henry load, like 350 plus touches. There is no way without him either wearing down and or breaking down. And getting a guy like Kenyon Drake to spell him, this almost feels like I said with the fourth quarter mentality that Gus Bradley was saying on the defensive side. It's almost like they have that on the offensive side. So even if Josh Jacobs gets tired, you can bring Kenyon Drake in and run the ball, and he can catch the ball as well. So let's see. That was funny. Oh, you liked my clown episode? Well, like I said before, Sandy B, there are YouTubers that come out here and do it for the love of the game, whether Raider fans or football fans. That's one thing. This was from the NFL Network. This is directly owned from the NFL, a $1 billion company. So I would hope that they would have their crap together. They really don't. If you watch that video, I think only 1 or 2 of the selections I would really consider a breakout. They had like CeeDee Lamb as a breakout, and he had like 900 yards and like 7 touchdowns as a rookie. And they had Joe Burrow as a breakout, who was the offensive rookie of the year candidate until he got hurt. So it didn't make any sense whatsoever what they're saying. Let's see, the effing Dowls. Exactly. Stacey Dowls. She's an idiot. The Frank Reich reunion stuff was indeed stupid. It's like, and I mentioned that in the video. I basically said, I think there's some I-95 bias there, that whole corridor, New York, Baltimore, Philly, they all kind of huddle around each other. Even with Sam Darnold, he was going to be a breakout guy too in my video. Cynthia Freeland, I believe, said he was going to be a breakout guy. He went to Carolina. And I'm saying, they have Taylor Moton on the line, and they have basically nobody else. So he's going to be running for his life. I'm mad she took a spot someone else could have had. Yeah, are you talking? I'm assuming you're talking about Simone Biles, Sandy B. Well, it's kind of a controversial subject, but I'll say this: to me, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense that, she's going to have like the jitters or like mental problems or what have you. Maybe she did, but this isn't her first rodeo is what I'm saying. She won the all-around gold last Olympics. They won the team gold last Olympics. She's like she's won the world championships 4 times. She's not like a rookie, on the big stage, I don't know. That kind of didn't make any sense to me. Let's see. Jokes, dang. Just was Athlete A on Netflix. Yikes. Okay, just watched it. I haven't seen that. Let's see. Earth Daughter, I don't have my drink ready yet. Well, you got plenty of time. I hope you got it done by now. Expectations for Yannick, Santi James says. I'm going to say I'm saying he's going to at least hit his floor of 8 sacks. He's had at least 8 sacks every year he's been in the league. And that includes that little stint where he was with Minnesota for like he had 5 there, and then he got shipped to Baltimore and he had 3 there. I think Vikings were having a fire sale or something. I don't know. Maybe they realized they couldn't re-sign him or whatever. It's all water under the bridge. He's with his buddy Gus Bradley now. He's in the system he likes. And with Max Crosby, if he's healthy, he had 7 last year. This could be very, very interesting, especially with teams like Kansas City, who I don't feel they've completely solved their offensive line issues right now. So we'll see about that. Plus, I'm not even going to mention Quentin Jefferson or Solomon Thomas on the inside, maybe creating some pass rush. That's going to be gravy, right? Let's see. Yeah, I think I watched most of them. Question: when did the Raiders win the Super Bowl? It was the '83 season, and I believe it was January 23rd, 1984. I said that before. I was with my dad watching the game, and we made like nachos and food. And he was a Rams fan, but he rooted for them because they were playing the Redskins. So, and they just dominated 38-9. It was awesome. They had a punt block for a touchdown. They had an interception for a touchdown, Jack Squirick. And then when Washington finally scored a touchdown, it was like the third quarter, they blocked the extra point. So it was so awesome. Sandy James says, do you think will we really bring Mariota on the field for certain parts of the game? Absolutely. And they're running plays. I didn't mention that. I know some other YouTubers have mentioned that, but they are doing some packages with Mariota. I could see that, and it makes sense. And I think Gruden kind of used the excuse that Mariota was hurt all year, or off and on all year, or whatever, as to why they didn't do it last year. I was kind of asking and calling for that, especially when he came in after in relief of Carr during that Chargers game. And the way that RPO worked between him and Jacobs, it was like they didn't know what to do. They really didn't know how to stop that. So, yeah, I would like that. I'm not sure about like the fourth quarter. I would like that, like, maybe the first half of the game, kind of keep them off their toes, try to get that lead, and then just pound the ball. Dominique said, exactly. I said the same thing about Simone. It makes no sense for this. This isn't her first rodeo. Yeah. Let's see. Santy James, who do you think shows more this year, Ruggs or Edwards? Well, I'm a big Brian Edwards fan. So, but Ruggs, he's gained about 10 or 15 pounds. I talked about it in, I believe, my last live stream where Derek Carr was mentioning that he's actually running violently now. I mentioned it in my training camp video, actually. But he called it that he's running his routes violently. So he's going to be a lot more physical this year, and hopefully, he doesn't get hurt with the leg injury. So I'm hoping Edwards can get on the field. I think he's really talented. He's big. He's like that X receiver that we could use, almost like I've said, like a Keenan Allen type that I think that we could use there. I think Ruggs is obviously more on the outside, more speedster. He's a lot smaller. Do you follow the NBA team? Do you follow the NBA favorite team? I haven't watched the NBA in quite some time. I just kind of lost interest with it. I'm down here in SoCal, so I was watching the Lakers for a while. I really kind of got into it because of Shaq and Kobe, because Shaq is kind of like a football player playing basketball, and I thought that was pretty neat that he could kind of dominate and use his body to throw people around, and they would try to foul him, and he would just still go up and slam dunk. I thought that was awesome. Santy James says, do you think Abrams shows everyone who he can be this year, or more of the same? I'm going to lean towards who he thinks he can be, because you got Carl Joseph there behind him if he doesn't work out, so to speak. No, I'm not. I'm in the Inland Empire, so I'm a little east of the Orange County. Baseball, do you follow the Cubs had a huge shakeup? Yeah, I heard about it. I follow a little bit of baseball. I kind of stopped watching it during the pandemic. I prefer to actually go to the games. I'll go to Angels games. I grew up as an Angels fan. And I also like to go, there's some minor league teams out here as well I like to go to. I think it's a lot more fun to actually go to the games, especially baseball, versus watching on TV. It's kind of a snooze fest, to be honest. Not enough action, but when you go to the game, you have the excitement, the crowds, the organ music. You can sit there and have a hot dog and a beer or a soda, and just kind of get into it. It's a lot more fun. It's kind of more of an event. So where do you guys think this defense is going to go as far as Yannick Ngakoue and Max Crosby? How many? Why don't you type it in there in the live chat right now? How many total sacks do you think Max and Yannick are going to have combined this season? So put that in there, and we'll talk. And I'll tell you what I think. Which player are you most excited for on defense? I'm gonna say I'm gonna have to say it's gonna have to run through Unique as far as excitement, because I think the defense is either going to get better or not through him, right? The more he can generate pressure means the more the offense is going to have to compensate, try to chip him with a running back or a tight end, which means Max should have more one-on-one matchups and everything else. I think he's probably the most talented player on the defense. So I think it's going to start and stop through him. If we can get the sacks, we can get off the field, punt the ball, get the turnovers. I think we can be top 15, but I'm scared of getting my hopes up like always. Yeah, if you look at my Gus Bradley video I made like in like January, the quality of the video isn't as great, I will admit that, but there's a lot of good data in there. My first off-season video mentioned that I think we should hire Gus Bradley, and we actually did. So I went through his stops with the Seahawks, with the Legion of Doom, his head coaching, and how the defense did in Jacksonville, and then with the Chargers. And every stop, the defense got better. Now, there were some questions. I didn't think there were as many sacks as there should have been, the totals, but total yards, turnovers, it all went up. So it all improved, actually. So the yards actually went down. So I'm optimistic. And if you look at that, it usually took about the second season for it to kind of gel. I think we're going to make a little bit of progress. We were 25th, so pretty much near the bottom. And we got a proven pass rusher. And we have Casey Hayward, who, I'm not saying he's the greatest corner of all time, but at least we have a veteran guy to, if anything, to push the young guys and can come in as well. Max should be healthy. Plus we play the NFC East. Other than Washington, maybe the Cowboys, if Dak comes back, and Amari Cooper is hurt, supposedly he's out right now. I didn't even get into that. So, and Saquon Barkley on the Giants is coming back off of injury, so we don't know if he's going to be 100%. So I think we'll have a pretty good time. Agreed. Loved Harry Carey. Let's see. Gus and Unique both said this defense reminds them of 2017 Jacksonville. I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit on that. There is a lot of young talent. I think it's going to take some time, and I think they're buying into this offense. I think it's a little bit more simpler. That's what everybody else is saying. I think we will do better. I'm thinking around 20th, 18 to 20, as far as defense, total yards. Sandy B says, I watched Bears training camp a little. Might be better this year. I will watch because of you and your predictions. You want to see more of my predictions about how the Raiders are going to beat the Bears? I also did that fantasy video. It's going to be very interesting. With Justin Fields there, I think it's just a matter of time there. But David Montgomery kind of came out a little bit. They franchised Allen Robinson. I don't know what they're going to do with him. That front office is a little kind of, I don't know. And they paid all that money to Khalil Mack. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the draft picks on that, by the way. Are you going to any games this year? I'd like to. My goal is to go to at least one game in Vegas. I'm about 4 hours away, so that's my goal. I don't know which one yet. I'll have to take a look at the schedule, but I'd like to go to at least one of them. Maybe the Charger game. I do like Justin Herbert, though. I think he showed a lot this year. He had like over 30 touchdowns as a rookie. He broke the rookie record. He's going to be a problem. Yeah, the Charger game. Yes, exactly. You mean going to Sophia Stadium down here in LA? Maybe. It's definitely going to be blacked out. That's for sure. I think there are way more Raider fans down here in SoCal than Rams fans or Charger fans or Rams fans. So I wouldn't mind going to that stadium. It looks like a big teardrop to me. So it's going to be a lot of crying going on. But yeah, I think the biggest thing with the Chargers was, I said this before, it was the coaching. I think they had some decent talent on the team. It's funny, Melvin Ingram went to Pittsburgh, just like I predicted in my my best fits video. That's another video that NFL Network did about a few players that are still free agents that they said were the best fits, and they said like for him like Kansas City and Miami, and I was like, no. The type of player he is, he's not. They called him a defensive. He's not. I would not really consider him a defensive end. Maybe in a 4-3, definitely not in 3-4. He's not big enough. He's only like 250 at most. He's more like that Leo spot, that rushing outside linebacker. And I said, well, Bud Dupree's gone. He went to Tennessee. Plug him right in, and there you go. Raider home game. Yes, blackout. We're gonna have a blackout right there. Guaranteed. So, anything else you guys want to talk about other than Raider stuff? You want to talk about fantasy football? You want to talk about these kind of wacky Olympics? A lot of kind of craziness going on, especially the first few days. I don't know if it's jet lag, having to fly all the way to Japan, or what the deal is. It's just been kind of crazy over there for the U.S. teams. It's not all doom and gloom though. Katie Ledecky won the 800 meters again. That's the third time in a row in the Olympics for her. So, and she said she's going to be coming back in Paris in 2024 to swim again. So I will elaborate on that on my review video though. Expectations for Kuntz. Depends on how much he's in, but it sounds like they're going to be playing them in waves. I would say 4 to 6 sacks, and I'm going to stay with my prediction that he's going to seal the game for us, which means we're trying to hold down a lead like in the fourth quarter, and he makes like a strip sack on the quarterback and gets the fumble, or somebody else recovers the fumble, and we just kneel down. We basically ice the game there. I think that's going to happen at least one game, and Kuntz is going to get that strip sack. That would be an excellent rookie year. I think they drafted him because they saw some Yannick in him, to be honest. And do you know what round Yannick was drafted in? Do you know what round Kuntz was drafted in? Coincidence? Maybe. Maybe not. So, yeah, if you have any other questions, comments, if you want to talk about what's going on with the channel, I didn't mention it this time, but August, again, we're going to be doing some different things. I've got a couple projects in the works, probably be unveiled, probably more likely in the middle of the month. Once I iron out some of the details, it's going to be very interesting though. I'll just say that. Are you going to have a show after a game is played? I'll definitely do a post-game video. I might do a live stream as well right after. I know a lot of Raider content creators do that. We'll see. I will definitely do at least a post-game review. And I started doing that last year as well when I started making videos. So keep an eye out on that. I will definitely do something for that Raiders-Bears game, especially if I think what's going to happen. The Raiders are going to dominate those Bears. You might not want to watch that video. Just kidding, Sandy. I think it'll be a decent game. What type of surprises will there be in mid-August? Stay tuned. That's my teaser. But I've got a few ideas for the channel. Like I said before, about kind of doing some new things, new ideas. Always try to do new segments like this 31 and 31 and kind of see what works. I mean, it's all going to be dictated by you guys, right? If you guys like it and enjoy it, I will do more of it. If you don't, then we will do something else. That's how it works. You never know. Yeah, I remember the last time the Raiders played the Bears. That was in London. That was a good time. If you're a Raiders fan. Basically, we don't have Trent Brown though. That was one of the few games he actually played. He kind of dominated Khalil Mack, as I recall, in that game. Now, we don't have him, but we do have Alex Leatherwood. Big mountain of a man. Big wingspan. I really enjoyed the shows. Well, I appreciate that. I enjoyed doing them for you. It's some work, but I do enjoy that, and I appreciate you. Appreciate you saying that, Sandy. Thank you very much. Anyway, anybody else have any questions or comments about what I covered? Anything else about the channel itself, other than wanting details what's going to happen in August, Earth Daughter? There's a little teaser there, but yeah, kind of maybe doing a little collaboration as well. We'll see how that works. The McCaskills don't spend money on the Bears. They spent money on Khalil Mack. They re-signed him. See, the problem with that is they were assuming Mitchell Trubisky was going to be the man, and he sucked. That's what hurt the Bears. It's kind of similar a situation as Denver Broncos. They gave the money to Von Miller. They drafted a number of quarterbacks, including Drew Lock, Paxton Lynch. None of them really panned out. Are you keeping the channel name? That is a good question, Earth Daughter. I may or may not. You will find out. It's another teaser. How you like that? So, yeah. I think that if the Bears, if Justin Fields is as advertised, they can make some noise in that division, to be honest, because let's think about it. The Lions still suck. They basically gave Stafford away for draft picks. They have Jared Goff for probably 2 years. He's an interim guy. They're not that good. The Vikings they kind of had their moment, and they're just I think they're kind of stalled out, kind of middle of the road. And the Packers, oh my God, look what's happening. Aaron Rodgers saga, Devontae Adams, I talked about that. Yeah, they might look totally different in 2022. So if the Bears could get their crap together, they could own that division for a while. And if Justin Fields is as advertised, I mean, he looked pretty good at Ohio State. That doesn't necessarily translate in the NFL, but if he is. And another thing, I think the Packers drafted Jordan Love, and they were probably expecting him to be ready to start now and do maybe even trade Aaron Rodgers. That's speculation, but it would not surprise me to see that, and I don't think he's ready yet. So, again, I see the Packers regressing. It's amazing how they have quarterbacks. So many good quarterbacks go through there. It's wild. But they need to go back to being 3-13 like they were before Brett Favre got there. I enjoyed that. I bet you did too. Anything else? I mean, I've kind of did a review in the AFC West. If you want to talk about that, I think the Raiders are kind of the biggest question mark in the division, to be honest. Can this defense gel? That's the big question. A lot of young players. Can Gus Bradley turn the curve? Like I said before, I think the biggest thing with the Chargers was the coaching. They got rid of them. Biggest thing with Denver is their quarterback, and I'm sure this is it for Drew Lock. I predict he'll be gone by fourth or fifth game. And the Chiefs, as long as they have Patrick Mahomes, they're going to be good. But I do question that offensive line. And they have to start running the ball more. Especially with that line issue. I mean, they got to keep him honest. You know, a lot of people are kind of drafting Clyde Edwards-Helaire because of that. He's pretty good. I'm not sure if he's like an elite back, but he's probably a running back one. He's a top 12 guy, I would say. So we'll see with the Raiders, especially with the new stadium. Kind of revitalized. Unfortunately, they couldn't get the stadium at Oakland. They had to get out. I mean, the Oakland Stadium was the worst stadium in the league by far. It was the only multi-purpose stadium as well, playing baseball and football. That was a big thing, like in the 80s. A few teams had that, so they basically got rid of that. But it was. I mean, they had sewage backups and stuff, and I've went to Allegiant Stadium. You can look at my tour. Unfortunately, they wouldn't let me film video there. I took a whole shitload of pictures, though, if you want to take a look at that. It's very big, very beautiful. I don't think there's a bad seat in the house, to be honest with you, if you guys go. And then you get a nice, beautiful look of the strip right outside the north entrance there. And the torch, the Al Davis torch, of course. We have good old Soldier Field. Well, they did renovate good old Soldier Field. If you took a look, if you looked at my thumbnail, what I did when those fantasy videos for each team, I would put the stadium at the bottom and put the players above it. And Soldier Field, they kept the actual place, but they renovated like the upper level completely. And honestly, it makes sense. There's a lot of history there, so I wouldn't mind going there. I want to go to Lambeau Field. I mean, I haven't been to either one of those places, and they're pretty, iconic, historic. I think the Bears and the Packers have been in the league since like Noah was building the ark. So, and they're both playing there. So, plus you got the Super Bowl Shuffle, Sandy. You guys can't get good and win again. And then what happens to the 85 Bears? Our downtown area is horrible in crime. We now have FBI helping our police department. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. That's insane. I'll definitely not go to Chicago anytime soon. I want to go to Giordano's though. I went there in Indianapolis. The Italian or not the Chicago style pizza, so good. I like that song. And Bear Down Chicago Bears. Oh my gosh. They were pretty darn good though. That 85 team was insane what they did. So what do you guys think? I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys think the Raiders are going to make the playoffs this year? Yes or no? Remember, there's 7 wildcard spots. So if you think so, tell me what spot they're going to be in. We have several in the suburbs. Yeah, I know. There's one by Wrigley Field, I believe. I looked it up, Sandy. Earth Daughter says, I love your channel too, Eric. I hope you don't change it too much. You put a lot of work into it and it deserves more views. YouTube is rude. Yeah, I made a video on that. I didn't want to bitch about it, but some of the stuff didn't make any sense to me, to be honest. But again, I can always improve. I can always improve what I'm doing here. I'm not going to say I'm infallible, and no, there's always room for improvement here. I'm not going to focus and dwell on whatever YouTube is or isn't doing. I think if I can improve the channel, I can normally get more people in here and more people to watch and more people in the live streams, and then it'll just work itself out. I hope so. 5th. Wow. 5th. So they'll have the top wild card. That would be interesting. They'd probably have to win 11 games, I'm guessing, at least 10 to do that. I would say 6th or 7th seed myself. They do have the ability. The whole thing hinges on this defense, right? Basically, the defense sucked. They finally got rid of Paul Gunther, the defensive coordinator. They brought in Gus Bradley, and he's been filling this team with players that fit his system. I talked about that in other videos, but it's a huge question mark right now. And I don't think anybody can just fix something, especially like this in one season, especially with the amount of youth we have on this team, especially in the secondary. My gosh, I mean, we have second year, third year, first year guys all across the board. Yeah, it would be nice. I I would hope they'd go 16-0, right? They run the table. I'd love that, but I'm trying to be realistic here. But they definitely have a chance at the playoffs. I mean, let's take a look at this, right? We got Kansas City in the West. Let's see, the East, Buffalo, maybe Miami. Maybe. They're not bad, but I'm not so sold on Tua. They looked a lot better with Fitzpatrick, and he's gone. Let's see the AFC North. You got Tennessee, and that's about it. Indianapolis with Wentz or whoever plays, if he doesn't even play this year, no. And then, or South rather, and then the North you have Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland. I don't think Cincinnati's going to make it, and then the Raiders. So that's 8. So they got to leapfrog a few teams here then, right? I was never good with realism. Hey, you said that. I did not. So, yeah. So definitely a chance at wild card. It's going to take I think a significant improvement on the defense to dethrone the Chiefs. Now, also, another team I didn't talk about was the Chargers, to be honest. Denver, even with Bridgewater, I mean, they still have a good defense. They'll be close in games. I'm not impressed, but the Chargers have pretty good talent. Unless Herbert gets that sophomore jinx, I think they could be onto something there. Let's see. I was never good with realism. All right. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about? Sandy B, do you think the Raiders are going to make the playoffs? Put a 1 in the chat if you do. Put a 2 if you do not. And explain yourself. Yeah, I'm just being realistic, though. I think they're definitely in the top half of the AFC. So there's 16 teams in the AFC, 16 in the NFC. So, yeah, I would say they're definitely in the top 8, but there's 7 spots. So they're going to have to do something. They have to do something about that. I am good. Well, 3. What's a 3? I didn't give a 3 as an option. You can't say 3. Come on. Quit waffling. I think they got a better chance than the Bears in the NFC. I'll say that. Because they got that whole quarterback thing. The quarterback's the most important position on a football team, obviously. And we just don't know what we have in rookies, so sorry they never stood out to me. Well, they've been having their problems. It's understandable, especially if you're not a Raiders fan and you're not here on the West Coast, or it's hard to say, right? Hey Lobo, thanks for coming on in. 1 only because I can't explain myself. You have to explain the 1 also. We do not get away with just putting 1s and 2s in the chat. There has to be explanations behind it. And I gave you my explanation, so I think they will get the 6th or 7th seed, so to speak. So that means they'll play the 2nd or 3rd team on the road. And then you'd have to kind of debate, well, who's going to be the top one? Who's all going to win the division? Honestly, the Cleveland Browns Lobo, I know you're a Cleveland Browns fan. They are, I don't know. Kevin Stefanski, I know I did that video on the Browns. I think they could get to the AFC Championship game. They have enough talent on the defense, and they run the hell out of the ball. And Baker's not terrible. I'm not saying he's a great quarterback, but he's not terrible. But he can do enough. But especially in Cleveland, where the weather sucks. And I remember the Raiders were there, and it was like a friggin' monsoon that they played in, and neither team could throw the ball. And that was a very close game. The Raiders won, but it was a very close game. It was an ugly game. Couldn't kick field goals worth a darn anywhere outside of like 30 yards or something. But I do think they have a good formula there with Myles Garrett. They have a lot. They've been drafting very well the last few years as well. So I think they're doing that. They have a good strategy, you know. And I think Pittsburgh's declining. I think this is kind of going to be their last hurrah with Big Ben. I think Najee Harris, the guy they drafted in the first round, Pittsburgh did. There's no joke, though. So be careful with him. Baltimore is kind of I just did that video on them. It almost seems like the league's figured out Lamar Jackson. Now, he's still talented. He's still going to get his 1,000 yards rushing. But, you know, when the rubber meets the road with that guy, I mean, they just kind of stall. You know, so I think the Browns are in prime opportunity now in that division. It's been dominated by the Ravens and Steelers for a while. So I won a question decades ago about who doesn't have anything on their helmets. You're talking about Cleveland, right, Sandy? Well, Pittsburgh only has it on one side. I think there was some story about that with Pittsburgh that, I don't know, they're so old. They only put it on one side because they were just starting something, and then it just kind of stuck. I don't understand why they don't put their logo on both sides. It's just kind of dumb, you know. It's like, whatever. Cincy, I like the offense. The defense is terrible. They're not going to go anywhere, at least for now. I would say at least 2 more years before they could even try to do something. Their defense is their defense could be the worst defense in football. Easy. Tup, gup, tup, yup. Tup, gup, tup, yup. Well said, Sandy. Have you had a little libation there, Sandy? You can't find the keys? Huh? I'm just kidding. Thank you guys for coming out. Let's see. We're almost at an hour now. So I think we might just end it here. I appreciate you guys coming out. If you have anything else to say or comment, I do appreciate you coming. I do appreciate you guys watching the 31 and 31 series. I finally got my drink now. Good job. Good job, Earth Daughter. Earth Daughter with a 1. No, I don't need to. Okay. Okay, guys. Thank you guys again for coming out. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys supporting this channel. And as always, go Raiders.